Hi, I'm Mark Upton, and so some of you might know, mid last year we put out a coaching ebook on our website, teamsportcoaching.com, called Developing a Playing System. It was really a 4-stage blueprint or process you can go through implementing any playing system or style of play across different team sports, and hopefully it was generic enough to apply to different sports. And recently at a Level 2 Australian Football Coaches course, I presented some of the concepts from that book, and we also did a bit of a workshop to apply those concepts to certain playing systems. So I thought it might be worth going through that presentation and also the workshop content that you might be able to use and have a go at in your situation and see if it fits for your coaching environment. Now, I'm in my house at the moment and I'm standing here. I've got a 3-year-old boy, and as you can see behind me, he loves his basketball and he loves his footy. And I'll relate a story in the presentation to how he's taught me a lot about the learning process. As much as you study skill acquisition, it's amazing watching a little boy grow up from the early stages of walking up to where he is now and practicing his footy and basketball. And there's been a lot of good lessons in there in terms of how to go about teaching and how people learn from the youngest age up to full-grown adults as well. So that's a big part of developing a playing system. I'll talk about the teaching stage, which is step 3 in the process, and how important that is and some things to consider. So we'll touch on that again now, but so let's work through the presentation and the workshop. So developing a playing system. Here's put in this clip just about how coaching was done perhaps in the good old days, based on Australian rules football anyway. So have a look at this video clip.
Our coach, Mr. Robertson, is the local butcher. We call him Arks, behind his back, of course, because...
If I've asked yous boys once, I've asked yous 1,000 bloody times. I'm sick of asking yous. Sick of it. No more kicking the ball backwards. No more stupid bloody handball. No more buggerising around them flanks. No more finessing. Yous know what I require of yous. Blackie, you tell them.
Well, tactically speaking, you prefer it if we kept the ball in the central corridor.
Go the guts! That's what you're saying, isn't it?
I suppose.
Of course it is!
So that certainly was how it used to be done some years ago, and perhaps scarily is still done in maybe some country isolated areas of certainly Australia, and I'm not sure about other sports, but hopefully we've progressed from there, not only at the high performance or elite level, but also at the sub-elite level with the education that goes on these days and the resources available to coaches. Is there a better way to do it? And perhaps in the old days that was how coaches went about teaching and implementing a system. It was telling players this is how it needs to be done. Training was get out and just have a bit of a kick and a catch, or a pass around, or a few shots, or whatever the case might be. No real training related to how you wanted to play and related to the game, and then it was get out there on match day and you're expected to execute it. So we've progressed from there, and so this is really a model, the 4 stages that we talk about in the book, from deciding what your playing system's going to be, to then conducting an audit for the demands and the skill sets required to execute that playing system properly, to then into the 3rd and most important stage is then how you're going to teach that both on and off the field to your playing group, and then analysing both in games and training performance what's working, what's not. And those last 2 steps, the 3rd and 4th stages, can be cyclical, and it might take a long time. It might be years before you actually master, or your players master, playing a certain system of play. So you go through this cycle of teaching, analysing how it's going, refining your teaching, having different focuses, and continually looking to improve, and hopefully getting to the point where you can execute that system really well. So that's an overview of the stages. And just some of the important points for each one. So deciding on your playing system, things to consider are things like your past experience, whether that's as a coach or perhaps in your playing days, if you did play in your sport, what your experiences have told you about what works and what doesn't in terms of different styles or systems of play. Depending on your level, conducting research and analysis into that. At a higher levels, you might have stats and might be able to conduct video analysis that tells you what the best teams did and the successful teams have done in certain areas. At the lower levels, your research might purely be talking to people who have got some experience and been around for a while and just picking their brain and understanding what their feel is for what systems work and might be appropriate in different situations. Finals is always an important one, particularly offensive systems. When it comes to finals in most sports, we know that the defensive pressure cranks right up. So particularly if you're looking at an offensive system, will that system be able to withstand the defensive heat of finals and big games? So that's an important one too. One that's been around for a long time is personnel versus system. So do you pick your system to suit your players, or try to develop and recruit your players to fit the system you believe is best suited to winning games and winning finals? And the final point here is a really important one, is really, do you understand the system? So you might have played in it, doesn't mean you can coach it. Okay, and the more research and analysis you do, the more you understand what makes your system work. There's a lot of copycat effect out there where whichever team was successful from the previous year might have won the championship or the premiership. Everyone tries to play the copycat and just copy what they do. And it could be across all their different systems, offence, defence, restarts, the whole lot. And they might not necessarily be the best way to go about it. And the other downfall is, if you're just copying, you might not really understand at a really granular level what makes that system work. And often with systems, it can be just the fundamentals or the real fine details that make the big difference in how the system gets executed. So that is another really important point, is do you have a thorough inside out understanding of your system? Because as we'll get to in step 3, if you don't understand it, you can't teach it, full stop.